How does communication become difficult or complex in a multi-party negotiation? In essence, negotiation is a communication exercise. But because you have multiple parties taking part in this exercise, the communication between individuals can become very complex and thus difficult. With that being said, one of the first reasons is the practice of private caucusing. When there are multiple individuals taking part in a negotiation, it is routine for one individual to approach another individual to have a one-on-one or direct conversation to establish boundaries or perhaps make some micro trade-offs that go to a resolution of the overwhelming issue or dispute for the entire group. Now, with this being said, it can be a very effective tactic for coming to a resolution, but it breaks down communication within the group because this side communication is not readily communicated to the group. There's a disparity in knowledge that now exists between the members of the group, and oftentimes these communications are not adequately communicated to other members of the group, so it leads to a communication breakdown. Another issue is biased interpretation. We as individuals have heuristics or predispositions based upon our past experience, knowledge, and information, and that affects how we interpret information. As such, in a group scenario, the same information may be interpreted differently by multiple people in the negotiation based upon our understanding of those principles, experience with it, that type of thing. So this disparity in how we interpret information leads to a communication breakdown. Another interesting tendency that you see in multi-party negotiation or multi-party communication is something known as perspective-taking failures. It's also known as the curse of knowledge. And what this is where individuals are privy to information and they're aware that this information is unique to them. Other parties or people in the part of the negotiation do not have this information, but it's difficult for us to get outside of our disposition that everybody understands the same things. So we tend to move forward acting as if everyone has the same knowledge that we do, when this is actually not the case. So failing to take perspective of others to determine what they understand about the situation. Once again, this lack of mutual understanding among all parties leads to a communication breakdown. Next, we have indirect speech acts. And this is the way we communicate requests to others, particularly when we request that others do things or continue a series of actions or thoughts. We ask them this without fully explaining or adequately explaining the next steps or how to go about doing that. So we are requiring that they employ some level of cognition, some additional effort in order to understand what we want them to do or what we are communicating to them. So again, this is an indirect speech act because we are not fully explaining what we expect of the other side or what we're asking them to do, and thus they have to follow up with us. And lastly, the multiple audience problem. And it's this problem that gives rise to the tendency towards private caucusing. But basically, the multi-audience problem is when you have information that you need or want to express to one party, but not another. So you are in effect creating multiple parties that you want to communicate different things to. Well, once again, anytime you're communicating something to a group and not others, or individuals and not others, you're causing a communication breakdown or a disparity in understanding among the group members, and thus it makes communication after that point more difficult. It adds a layer of complexity based upon acquired information and unknown information. So these are some of the primary difficulties that you'll run into with regard to communicating in a multi-party negotiation.